What's good, Shark fans? I'm here with you for the last day of Shark Week. The sadness. But yet and still, the Sharks must go on. So, for this last day, Saturday, July 26th, we only have 2 programs instead of your usual 3. All right? So, our 2 shows were Attack of the Devil Shark. This one featured Dr. Austin Gallagher, Tadzio Bovowetz, King of Phillips, and Mickey Johnson. Right? You then had your second show of the night, which was Battle for Shark Mountain. And this one featured Dr. Craig O'Connell. Now, let's just jump right into the water. The first show, Attack of the Devil Shark, was very entertaining, but almost kind of, in typical fashion, especially for this week, kind of like nerve-wracking in the sense of, like, there's a lot going on, and you have this feeling of imminent danger. The dives that they did, they were looking for a shark that was the perpetrator of 2 shark attacks, right? And this was actually confirmed through DNA analysis that the same shark committed both attacks. They also were trying to find whether or not that shark in particular was one of the local legends named Djabway. Now, Djabway is a large, dominant tiger shark from the area that many locals have already said they've interacted with or have seen. So they were trying to see if there was a connection there. Now, again, because they're looking for tiger sharks, and if you know about tiger shark personalities, their aggression, their curiosity, there were a lot of tiger sharks they dealt with, right? But these tiger sharks were on edge. They were very active. So it gave you the feeling of imminent danger, right? Like you never felt like the divers were perfectly safe. Like there was a lot going on. So that did add to the entertainment factor. But I will say this, these dives were also stunning. Like these were beautiful. Honestly speaking, you guys just added this to my dive list. Like now I want to go there. Granted, it was in the Caribbean, so you expect the Caribbean to be gorgeous, but these were some really spectacular dives. So amazing. Now, one of the things that kind of added to this, like the extra spice of this episode, they were diving in an area that was tectonically active. So there is a still active volcano. Granted, that volcano has not erupted in a number of years, but you're still dealing with a number of fissures. You're still dealing with a number of hydrothermal release, hydrothermal vents that are spewing out various gases and things into the water column, and some seismic activity. So the overall hypothesis is that those occurrences are leading to an increased aggression shown from the sharks in the area, particularly the tiger sharks. So what they're doing is exploring whether or not that hypothesis has some merit. Now, as they've stated in the literature, there has been some correlation between tectonic activity and shark behavior. So this would just further solidify that if they were able to find some good data. Now, one of the things that I appreciated most about this show, I always appreciate when you see the ingenuity, right? The creative thoughts and uses of technology to study these amazing creatures. And in this show, they delivered something that I've never seen before, which made it really cool. They created something called the Sphere, right? This was Dr. Gallagher's creation. So if you get an opportunity, and you know I'm always going to try and get you to swim right over, check this show out, because the Sphere is a really cool invention, right? So basically it is a device, a large device, that is meant to simulate volcanic activity. right? So it has electromagnetic fields, thermal output, acoustics, things that would make the sharks believe that something tectonically is happening, right? And that was interesting. It was cool. And I'm just going to say it worked like a charm. So definitely check this show out. Very fun watch. Solid science. I enjoyed. Now on to our next program. We then have Battle for Shark Mountain. So this show is more like the Craig O'Connell that I'm used to, right? To where he is definitely engaged, but he's more on like his serious science. All right. So I like this show because it was very, again, it was heavy on the science, but it also explored something that I don't typically see on Shark Week. And it was the interaction between sharks and local fish species, right? Well, in this case, migrating fish species. But we have bull sharks versus giant trevally jacks, right? Which they nickname or they call in the show GTs for giant trevally. Now, we always think of sharks as these just extremely dominant apex predators that the prey items don't fight back. And that's not the case. You know, just from common knowledge, not even just with sharks, but animals in general, typically an animal will try and fight back. It's not just going to lay down and die, right? So you have bull sharks, which are coming to this underwater mountainous area, right? Which they believe is due to an influx of migrating giant trevallies, right? So this whole show was about studying the interactions between these two species and determining whether or not this is what's driving the bull sharks into this area. Solid science, right? The hypothesis that they put forth was that basically the bull sharks are hunting the jacks during the spawning, right? Because they are coming here to reproduce. So visually stunning, because during the dives and during their research, we're witnessing these giant shoals of giant trevallies, right? I mean hundreds of individuals, which is amazing. Because giant trevallies, first of all, they're not a small fish. These guys are, fish. These fish are growing to 5-6 feet length, right? And you're dealing with hundreds of them. And there has been research and I believe actual witnessing of giant trevallies attacking bull sharks in order to save themselves, right? So basically ramming bull sharks by the gills in order to save themselves, right? And when you have hundreds of them in the same area, you would assume that protection would be amped up, right? Now, granted, I'm not sure if there's actual footage or eyewitnesses of that event occurring. If there's not, feel free to comment and let me know, because I'm always willing to learn. I am not, by any means, a trevally expert. So I actually appreciated how much I learned about an alternative species outside of the bull sharks. That was cool. So this entire show, it did track a lot of what was going on with both species. You did see its mating. It was also in conjunction with the moon phase, right? So another part to the hypothesis was that the main part of the mating, right, would occur during the full moon, right? So they're under basically a clock of trying to track these animals up until the full moon, right? Some things that I did not know. Trevallies change color during mating, right? During the whole spawning season, they change color to show sexual dimorphism. That's new to me. I did not know, so that was cool to learn. We also noticed that it was not just bull sharks. Granted, you would kind of expect that, but we saw other species of sharks here. One shark that we saw during the dives that typically, actually, I don't think we saw at all this Shark Week. Spinner sharks. So that was pretty dope. You also saw another species of jack, which was the big eye jack, kind of in the mix, right, with the giant trevallies and the bull sharks. It was interesting to see their interaction because the big eye trevallies were basically escorting a bull shark. And the scientists were trying to understand, like, what is this interaction? Are they picking up parasites? Are they escorting it to save or to be like the protectors of the giant trevallies? It was just an interesting interaction that definitely warrants some more study. So that was pretty cool. They also they also use something, but this piece of technology is just a makeshift contraption that Dr. Craig O'Connell, like he said, developed in his garage, right? They call it the Silver Bullet. And it was basically like a piece of something that he basically wrapped in foil, and then like not taped, but like, tightened. And it was meant to be all reflective, shiny, to basically simulate fish scales, right? To hopefully entice the shark species to come check it out or to come closer, right? Simple design, but effective, right? And what it was meant to do, honestly, that really wasn't even just for the bull sharks. That was more for the giant trevallies. It was used as a distraction so that the trevallies will come check it out to see if it was a food source, because they hypothesized that, of course, in these giant shoals, the trevallies are much better protected, right? They're much more protected because they have strength in numbers, along with their defensive strategy, right? But if they can get some individuals to be distracted or to move away from the shoal, they were testing whether or not the bull sharks would immediately react and take advantage of that opportunity, right? So it was definitely a fun watch, all the way till the end. Check it out. Check it out. Dr. Craig O'Connell, this was some solid scientific work. All right, so now what do I think? First of all, this final night of Shark Week was much more science heavy, right? This was not big on the entertainment factor. This was all about the science for the most part. Which, if you are a shark person, depending on what type of shark person you are, you do appreciate this, right? So it was a solid night. It was more of a quiet, kind of like mellow, like end to Shark Week, but still very enjoyable. If I was to rate Attack of the Devil Shark on a scale from 1 to 10, I'm giving it a solid 7. Solid 7 to 7.5. It was entertaining. It definitely, that fear factor definitely helped to, like, okay, wait, I want to make sure they make it to the end of the episode. And then interacting with the other scientists, especially locally, it's always a great thing to witness the collaboration amongst scientists. So amazing. The second show, Battle for Shark Mountain, was just really interesting. On a scale from 1 to 10, I think I would give this a 7. Right? Definitely worth the watch. So, like I said, check it out. All right. All right, now, ladies, gentlemen, sharks and sharkettes, I hope that you've enjoyed this Shark Week as much as I did. I can't wait until next year, but just keep swimming. All right, that's what I got to say for you. In Sharks We Trust. Do not let the end of Shark Week be the end of your shark journey. All right, keep on going, and I'm looking forward to continuing speaking about more sharks in the future. But I hope that you've enjoyed this little week-long journey with me. Until next time. All right. Take care.